everyone, I am Maryam Yousuf from Regular and my roll number is 40. Today I will be discussing an important concept in the post-colonial studies, that is decolonization of knowledge. I will be talking about the origin and development of this term, the central idea of this term, and also the key figures and their role, along with the major works, key critics, and the influence of this term on the contemporary literature and our society. In simple terms, this means challenging the dominance of Western knowledge systems and creating a space for the diverse, especially the non-Western ways of knowing. It reminds us that the knowledge is not only shaped by the objective truth, rather it is shaped by the history, culture, and power. The central idea is that during the colonial rule, Western knowledge was seen as universal and superior, and as a result of this, the local cultures, local language, and knowledge system were ignored and they were seen as inferior. Decolonization of knowledge aims to correct this imbalance by recognizing multiple perspectives and valuing knowledge from different parts of the world equally. This idea emerged after the end of the colonialism in the mid 20th century. Although many countries gained political independence by that time, but their educational system and their intellectual frameworks were still deeply influenced by the colonial powers. This created a situation where people continued to think and learn from a Western perspective and using a Western lens, which limited their own cultural understanding and expression. The development of this concept was that during this time and all over this time, many scholars and peoples begin to question this imbalance. They argued that the true independence is not just political but intellectual and cultural. This led to the development of the post-colonial theory, where knowledge began to be re-examined from the perspective of colonized rather than the colonizer. Today, this concept is applied in literature, education, research, and even global politics. If we talk about key figures and their role, so several thinkers played a major role in shaping this concept. The first one among them is Edward Said, who showed that how West created biased representation of the East. Said and his works revealed that knowledge can be used as a tool of power and control. Then the second one was Gugi wa Thiong'o, who emphasized language as a key issue. He argued that if we still use colonial language and we continue to do that, it will lead to the cultural domination, and it will encourage the writing in colonial languages only. So he encouraged writing in native languages and to reclaim the identity. The third one was Gayatri Spivak, who focused on the marginalized groups, especially women. Although she tried to explain whether they can truly speak or be heard within the dominant system of knowledge. She highlighted how some voices remain excluded even in academic discussions. Then the fourth one is Frantz Fanon, who explored the psychological impact of colonialism. He argued that the colonized people must free themselves from mentally and culturally from the colonizers, not just politically. Together, these figures contributed by exposing hidden power structure and knowledge, offering ways to resist them. Then we have key figures, key events and their influence. Several historical events played an important role in shaping this concept. The first one is decolonization movement after the World War II, which led to the political independence, but it also raised awareness that intellectual freedom was still lacking. This pushed scholars to question inherited system of knowledge. The second one is the rise of post-colonial studies in the late 20th century, which provided a formal academic space to analyze colonizers' impact on culture, language, and knowledge. This helped to spread the idea globally. The third one is the recent debate on curriculum reform, especially in the universities. We have highlighted the need to include the diverse authors and perspective. This has made decolonization of knowledge a practical and ongoing discussion today. Each of these events strengthened the idea that knowledge must be inclusive and representative. Then we have the major works and their contributions. Some important works directly contributed to these concepts, and these works include Orientalism, that was by Edward Said, that explained how Western knowledge about the East was constructed in a biased way, reinforcing power and control. Then we have Decolonizing the Mind, which focuses on the language and shows how colonial language shaped thinking and identity. It encourages reclaiming native languages. Then we have Can the Subaltern Speak, that is by Gayatri Spivak, that questions whether marginalized people can truly express themselves within the dominant system. It highlights the limits of representation. Then we have The Rest of the Earth, that explores the emotional and cultural damage of colonialism and stresses the need for the complete liberation, including knowledge and identity. These works are important because they not only criticize the existing system but they also offer new way of thinking. Then we have the key critics that criticized this term. Some scholars also have criticized these concepts, and that include Ijaz Ahmed, who believes that it can be too theoretical and it ignores economic and class issues. Then we have Vivek Schreiber, who argues that rejecting all Western theories is not practical. Then we have Arif, who warns that it can become disconnected from the real life struggles. These critics help improve the concept by making it more balanced and applicable. If we talk about the importance of this concept in our contemporary literature and society, we can see that today decolonization of knowledge is highly relevant. In literature, it allows the writer to share their own cultural stories and perspectives, and in education, we see that it encourages more inclusive syllabi that represent different voices and history. In our society, it helps to challenge inequality and promote respect for cultural diversity. It is also important in our global discussions about identity, representation, and justice. If we conclude our whole discussion, so decolonization of knowledge is about breaking away from the dominant way of thinking and making room for many voices. It is a step toward fairness, inclusion, and intellectual freedom. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.